Alright my pal, so today I'm in the Glasgow Police Museum where there is a lot of cool stuff. I've been here before and called up the other day to arrange a visit to come in, and Alistair, who's the curator, was kind enough to show me around. Right Alistair, how are you doing?
How you doing?
So what kind of stuff are we allowed to look at here?
It's the Glasgow Police Museum. The introduction that we give to visitors is this is the Glasgow Police Museum. It's the museum of Britain's first police force.
Right.
We're all told at school that Robert Peel invented the police in London in 1829. Glasgow had a police force in 1800.
All right.
And in 1800, Robert Peel was a 12-year-old schoolboy.
All right.
So
head of the times.
So our story starts in 1779,
All right.
and we had two tries at policing, 1779 and 1789, but they knew they needed an Act of Parliament, and on the 30th of June 1800 we got the Act of Parliament from King George III,
Right.
and that set up the Glasgow Police that would last for 175 years.
Oh, and then I just see after the passing of the Glasgow Police Act on 30th of June 1800, 30th of June is my birthday.
Well, there you go. And so the first police station was in what is now the Tron Theatre.
Right,
in
really?
Trongate. It was in the back in the session house of the church round in Trongate.
Right.
And the magistrates, and the town council met in the toll booth,
Right.
which you see nowadays. It's a steeple.
Ah, it's just down the road.
Aye, but they had a building attached to it at that time.
Wow.
But that was taken down in 1921.
Look at that. That's just, I pass that all the time coming up here on the bus and stuff.
Aye. So on the 15th of November 1800,
Right.
the Glasgow Police marched through the streets to show the public what they were paying for,
Right.
and to strike fear into the heart of the criminals.
All right.
And it must have worked. There was
must
a lot
have.
of criminals moved over to the Gorbals to get away from the police.
That's funny you say that. That's where my family are from.
Well, but that's what happened. In 1808, the Gorbals police had to be set up.
Right, really?
Because they had the problems that we had moved them
Right.
across the river.
Right.
So they were early as well.
Right. That's
So
interesting.
So the Gorbals police and the Calton police were set up in 1819,
Right.
and the Anderson police were set up in 1824. So the city had these three boroughs round about it in
Right.
the city. So there was 4 police forces all round Glasgow, with 3 police forces round about it.
Right. So it wasn't I was just going to ask you that. So when you're saying the Gorbals police force and the Calton police force, so they weren't just specific to the Gorbals, they would have maybe had a...
No, they were specific to the Gorbals because the council in Gorbals had set up their own police force.
Wow.
And Calton had set up their own police force, and
Right.
Anderson done the same. Because
Jeez.
once if they were a borough and they had their own council, it was only later that they were brought into part of Glasgow Police.
Right. I didn't know that. That's
There
interesting.
you go. And then we've got some artefacts here. We have a custody book from 1817.
Right.
And-
Glasgow's first detective.
Well, that's his signature there, Peter
Jeez.
McKinley. And
Look at the writing.
we've got some battens there.
Oof.
And they had it weren't just presentation battens. Every policeman's baton had a crown and a VR on it to show that it was an official.
Right.
That was his badge of office, really.
What's this, a blunderbuss?
No, it's a pistol. It's a muzzle loading pistol from 1860, and in the side of the lock there it says Glasgow Police.
All right.
And they were kept in the office. And if the men were having to go to arrest somebody who had a pistol, they would take one with them, just in case.
Right. Because I was going to ask you, who got that taken off them?
No, that was
That was a police issue,
that was
man.
a police issue.
So that was like the kind of firearms back in the day.
Aye.
Right, interesting.
So we're moving along, and we've got some batons there for superintendents. They
Right.
were ceremonial. They gave the person his position
Right.
as superintendent of the division, and that's St Rollox and Maryhill.
Maryhill Division.
Well, Maryhill had its own police force.
Right, aye.
So here we go.
Oh,
This is as you look up there, you can see the handcuffs.
aye.
And the first handcuffs were a leather strap with a wooden toggle on it.
Right.
And that was on one wrist, and the other policeman would put it on the other wrist and walk them into the office. It was a sort of come along thing,
Right.
But it could be tightened if the person didn't want to go.
Didn't comply.
And then they got the figure 8 ones,
Right.
which were just really a metal version of these. of that, and that could again could be manipulated to make the person realise that going along to the office is the best possible. And then they get one where you get the two wrists together.
Right.
And that was the early versions.
Right, so see the bottom one, would that be like so that was like the first set of handcuffs, if you want, the ones you get now?
You can see how it's evolved, different designs. And Charles Rennie Mackintosh, his father was a Glasgow policeman. He was a superintendent in the Glasgow Police.
That's interesting, I didn't know that.
And he was he founded the Glasgow Police Athletic Association, and he was also the coach of the tug of war team.
Oh really?
Huh?
Oh, interesting.
So as we move round, we've got different stories, etc. One of my favourite ones is in 1866 there was a Glasgow photographer.
Right.
And two men were arrested in Linlithgow for passing forged banknotes.
All right.
And when they told the police they had got the banknotes for this photographer in Glasgow, John Greatrex.
Right.
So the superintendent got a warrant and went up with detectives, searched the place, found all the bits of notes and everything, but the Greatrex wasn't there.
Right.
He had ran off with his assistant, Jenny Weir.
Right.
So one of the detectives was sent after them and traced them to Southampton, where they had boarded a ship to New York.
All right.
So he came back and told Alexander McCall, and he set off in pursuit. He went down to Southampton and went on the 2-week journey to New York. And when he got there, he didn't know where they were in this big city.
Aye.
So he put an advertisement into the local newspaper: photographic assistant required, preferably a Scottish girl. And Jenny Weir applied for the job and put her address at the top of the letter.
Jeez.
So he went round with a detective to the address and arrested them and brought them back to Scotland.
What was the odds in that?
Well, there you go. But the point was that he narrowed it down by saying Scottish girl.
Aye.
See? That meant he should be keen to.
It's pretty.
Specific.
Aye. No, I was going to say another word there, but it might have sounded wrong. I've got to say it's quite manipulative, but it's obviously your job. It's your job. It's quite smart, isn't it? Crafty.
Aye, well,
Crafty.
That's it. It's a sting.
Aye. It's a sting. Aye.
Americans call it a sting.
Aye. Captured.
This is a uniform for 1890s.
Right.
All the policemen wore helmets in these days.
Right.
And we have here a tipstaff. See the brass thing?
Right.
That's
Hector Smith.
he was a detective, and that's his identity. He used that for identity. It's a miniature baton, because the baton was for the uniform men, was their powers.
Right.
That was where they got their powers. But the detectives carried a miniature in their pocket so they could identify themselves as detectives.
Right. It's interesting.
And this is a uniform for an inspector.
Right.
In 1906. And he had to look different for the constables and sergeants. He was a supervisor.
Right, so your rank kind of dictated
what uniform you had.
and what kind of wee token stuff. And
yes,
right.
That's right. And this is the First World War memorial. 748 policemen went to the First World War from Glasgow.
Right.
And 133 were killed or missing.
Right.
And one of them was John Macaulay. He went to the Scots Guards, and he was one of the policemen that went to war. And in 1917 he won the Victoria Cross.
Wow.
And he's the only Scottish policeman to win the Victoria Cross. That's a replica. The original's in the Scots Guards Museum.
Right.
So the Victoria Cross winner was quite a thing in these days, obviously.
It would still be a thing, wouldn't it?
Aye.
MD winning that.
And that's him there in the Scots Guards.
Right.
That's him there in the Scots Guards, John Macaulay. When you see the uniform over there, the badge is bronze.
Right.
Right? Now in 1912 they gave them a shiny silver one, like this one here. But the policemen didn't like it.
Right.
Because at night time, when they were patrolling in the dark streets, a light would shine off the badge and give their position away.
Aye.
So they gave them a black badge and a black top for their helmet so they could sneak about after the criminals.
Right.
And this is stuff from John Macaulay, the Victoria Cross winner. That's a certificate he got for being mentioned in dispatches back to the Field Marshal.
Right.
And it's signed by Winston Churchill. It's hand signed by Winston Churchill.
Wow.
There you go, eh?
Churchill, eh? You can't get in the camera shot, Christopher.
One of the most famous chief constables was Percy Silito.
Oh, I've heard of him, aye.
Right, Percy Silito came to Glasgow and he had been in Sheffield where he dealt with a lot of gang problems.
Right.
So they got him to Glasgow to do the same.
Right.
And he was very successful doing that, but he did other things. He noticed the traffic police had just been formed and they were wearing plain caps.
Right.
See that in that
Aye,
image? And the public were saying, we don't know they're policemen, they could be street sweepers or lamplighters or something like that. So he put the black and white checkers onto the caps, and that was so that people would know it was a policeman.
Right.
And that was the first time that had been done. He invented the idea.
Right.
And it's now spread throughout the world. You go to Australia,
Aye,
New Zealand,
aye.
Chicago even.
Aye,
Some of
Chicago have it,
The
aye.
Spanish local police.
Aye.
It's all over the world now. And it was started here in 1932.
So see that there, that kind of
Yes.
checkered band, so it says there the Silito tartan
That's
cap
right.
band, so
That was
that,
that's the nickname.
right, but was that a Scottish guy that started that?
Well, he was from London,
Oh, right,
but
right,
he came to Glasgow as chief constable.
right,
And when he was chief constable here, he invented it
right,
because of the traffic police, you see.
right, aye,
So that's why it's called the Silito tartan. It's a nickname. It's
Aye,
the nickname for the
aye,
band.
aye,
It's the
right,
Silito
right.
tartan because he founded it. He made it first.
right, I'm with you,
There
aye.
you go. Aye, and we can move in the wartime, Second World War. This was the uniform in the Second World War, and they had to carry or wear a helmet and a gas mask because they expected the Germans to use gas, but they didn't. But everybody had to carry a gas mask. Even civilians had gas masks. Even babies had gas masks.
Ah, that's horrendous to
It
think,
was,
isn't
it
it?
was.
Isn't it?
And this is a bit of Rudolf Hess's aeroplane.
Oh, what?
Rudolf Hess came down in Eaglesome.
I did no crash, did it
Well, the
crash
plane
landed
crashed,
somewhere,
he
didn't he?
parachuted out and the plane came down in the field. There's a picture. And one of the policemen that was in the picture there, he picked up the piece off the ground and put it in his pocket as a souvenir.
I missed that the last time I was here, I don't remember seeing that.
Aye, I suppose it's just in a wee corner, but so that's a piece, and it's been verified by the RAF Museum at Hendon.
So what do you think, so let me ask you a question, right, so do you have any kind of thoughts on this, it was a peace mission, or do you think he was trying to defect? Because that would have been an intelligence
What it was
bonanza, was it no?
Well, he was supposed to be Hitler's deputy,
Aye,
and he was losing his power to
Right.
Martin Bormann. Martin
Right,
Bormann
aye.
was pushing himself forward, and he was getting left behind.
Right.
So he knew that Hitler had originally not wanted to fight Britain
Right.
because of the colonies and everything.
aye,
And so he thought, if I go across and make peace with Britain, I'll be a hero again.
right,
So he flew over trying to make peace, and he tried to get the Duke of Hamilton out into near Straven and that. There's the Duke of
Right,
Hamilton's place, and he tried to get to there, but he overshot and couldn't get out the plane, so he had to turn it over and fell out and broke his leg, and he parachuted down and the plane came into the field,
right,
and he was caught by a farmer with a pitchfork. And then he was eventually ended up in the Tower of London.
I'm sure it wouldn't have been local police want to talk to somebody like him.
No. he got weeked out in the Tower of London.
He's disappearing.
We had policewomen from 1915.
Right,
In 1915, first policewoman Emily Miller was appointed,
right,
and they were all detectives until after the Second World War, and then some of them got uniforms and went out to divisions and things, and they were really used to handle offences against women and children,
Right,
like
aye,
domestic violence
aye.
and kids and that, so that was their job. This is a crime here. It was a constable convicted of murder. He was a beat officer in the Southern Division around about Cumberland Street,
right.
and he had
Gorbals in it.
and he had a girlfriend. He was married with 2 kids, but he had a girlfriend on the beat.
Right,
And in July 1950, he decided to end the relationship.
Right.
So he had used his car and he picked her up at the house while he was supposed to be working, and he took her out to Prospect Hill Road, you know, just where the Asda is now. That was called the Moll's Mire. That was a bit of wasteland that nobody built on at that time. And they had an argument, and he knocked her to the ground, and he reversed his car over her twice and killed her. So here she's lying in the road, folk come along, and he's away, of course. He's away back to his beat. Folks see her lying in the road, and they say, it's a road accident. So the traffic police were sent for. And William Kevin, the constable in the traffic department, he came and looked at it and he says, no, this is a murder. Because the tyres go over her twice. So the CID got involved. They found out who she was going with and traced James Robertson. And he was tried at the High Court in Glasgow on the 6th of November 1950. He was found guilty and he was executed at Berlin Prison on the 16th of December 1950. So he didn't get much time. Do you think that was making an example of him because of his position? No, it was always like that.
Was it?
As soon as the verdict and then the papers went to the Secretary of State for Scotland, he signed it off, then they get executed. Because they felt it was inhuman to have somebody sitting in a cell worrying when he was going to go. They just did it as quickly as possible.
So how would you know just date it? How would you know, see this is a thing, I know it's a bit of a tangent, but how would you know just put a bullet in his head after the verdict?
Well, it's the judicial execution is hanging in these days, you know. I
know, but I would rather get a bullet in my head, to be honest with you. See this one here, this is...
Peter Manuel.
Right, so this is quite a famous one in Scotland.
That's right. Well, it was a Lanarkshire case.
Yeah.
Lanarkshire was the force that was dealing with them.
Right.
And there was 8 people killed.
Yeah.
There was 2 families of 3 and 2 girls on their own.
Yeah.
And he was tried for that and he was found guilty in 1958. And he, if he had been found not guilty, there was policemen from Durham in England waiting to get him for the murder of a taxi driver down there as well. But of course, Ace beats a king, you've got him for 7, and he got executed in July 1958.
I actually live no far from where the triple murder happened. Was it the Watts? Burnside?
Fensbank Avenue.
Aye, so I live right along the road for there.
Fensbank. Aye, that's right.
And I remember my grandma telling me about it when I was growing up, and I was like, jeez.
Oh, I know. This is quite an interesting wee story here. The guy in the middle there is a guy, Albert Field from America.
Right.
And he came to Britain and teamed up with a guy from London, and they came up to Glasgow, and Albert Field had a pistol.
Right.
So they went into a post office at Tollcross, held up the post office, shot a postman in the leg during the robbery, got the money, ran out. The Englishman with the money ran one way, and Albert Field ran the other way, and he's running down the street with a pistol. And members of the public are chasing him because that's their post office. That's where they get the brew money.
Wages. Whatever.
So they're chasing down the road.
Catch him.
So 2 policemen joined in the chase. Of course, they're not armed, but they chased them down to London Road. Right. And they took a hostage.
Wow.
Mrs. Fleming, an old lady waiting in the tram car.
Jeez, man.
So the policeman managed to get her away from him. And there's a picture here of the 2 policemen standing together. They're standing together and he's pointing the gun at them, and they keep them talking until the detectives arrived and grabbed him, and he was arrested.
Right.
And nobody was hurt. The 2 policemen were given a British Empire Medal for gallantry by the Queen. The photographs were taken by a newspaper photographer on his first day with the Evening Citizen. The very first day.
That was what he walked into?
Yeah, he had been sent to take a photograph of the post office. And the route he took past this still going. And he started taking pictures, and he won awards for them, you know.
Jeez.
And about 6 years ago, I was in here. A family came in, and they said, "Could we get copies of these pictures?" I said, "Why do you want that?" I said, "That's my granny." The wee woman was the granny.
The hostage?
Fleming, aye.
Crazy, couldn't they make that up, man? But, you know.
And Glasgow Police did the 175 years because in 1975, Glasgow Police was taken in as part of Strathclyde Police, and that was the end of the City Police, and it became part of Strathclyde Police.
Right.
And this is the last style of uniform that we wore. That was my jacket.
Oh, was it?
Aye, I kept
All right.
it.
Well, did you? Aye.
That was my jacket, one of the early ones, so there you go.
Aye. And this is the radios and
That
stuff.
was the early radios. You had a receiver and a transmitter. And then they went on to this one-piece radio. You could press the red button at the top and speak into it.
And look at the tech we've got now.
I know. And over here, we're talking about Peter Manuel.
All right.
You're talking about Peter Manuel. That's the set of his fingerprints.
Wow, that is creepy, isn't it?
Right.
So that is his
Actual fingerprints taken in 1947.
So that's out his file.
Aye.
Wow. That's creepy. Is that his death warrant?
Aye.
Woofed.
Signed by the judge.
Oh jeez. But do you know what? People like that, they need to see people are going about doing things like that, man. It's not what I mean. Serial killers and stuff.
That's exactly.
Bible John.
Aye, never really got him.
Like my question since we're here.
Yeah.
Jenkins Peter Tobin.
Well, they tried that and the DNA didn't match.
Aye, but there's...
I think it was deterioration in the...
Aye, but I don't...
It could have been.
I think that's probably why... I think he's good for some of them, but no...
It's quite possible.
Aye, because there was a couple of them. I think that Angus Sinclair was going about the same time as him as well. So,
But Peter Tobin used to... One of his specialities was to ingratiate himself with the local church and get jobs in the church and things, and he would probably learn phrases of the Bible to impress the priests or the ministers.
Aye, cloaking himself.
Yeah.
Aye.
And that's a possibility that links it as well. But
I think that's interesting you said that, because that's one of the things that makes me think it is him. He is, and he left Glasgow when... So I think he left Glasgow in 1970 and moved to Brighton. Like so like he's like any time something happens in a city he's in, he moves.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Creepy as shit, man.
And that's the sort of historical side of things, and we've got a international room here.
Right.
With uniforms and badges from all over the world.
Jeez. I remember being in here before. I was quite shocked at some of the badges that I seen, as I explained to you when I came in. There was a couple of North Korean ones, and like how the
Vatican City,
Iraq. There was a Swiss. Is it if you not get one of the Swiss? No, not the Swiss Guard. They're no police, aren't they?
No, they're the army.
Right. Aye. Carabinieri.
That's them.
Aye.
If you want to take a walk around it.
Aye.
That's the UK at this end.
So we've got a lot of kind of it's just like countries with their badges and stuff. Probably most countries in the world are in here.
A good many, yeah.
It is interesting, I think. Is that Spain?
That's the Spanish one, it's the new Spanish one.
Bulgaria?
Yep.
Aye, I seen you had some Russian ones the last time I was here as well. Oh, are they? Up there? Alright, I didn't. I thought they were doing this way.
And then we've got...
Burkina Faso. How do you even get to talk to somebody in Burkina Faso?
Well, there's other collectors. And
right, use day swaps, like wrestling cards or something.
Aye, it's the same idea.
Egypt.
Aye.
Cairo traffic. So see these Palestine badges?
Yeah.
So in Palestine, obviously, there's a lot of kind of, what do you call that?
Hamas?
Disputes.
Areas, aye.
Right, so what are they badges? What police force do they actually have?
What happened was the PLO is the one with the flag on it. See the one on the right?
Right.
That was the PLO patch for the police. And when they were beaten in the election by Hamas, they put out the other one. So the one on the left with the curved title over it, that's the Hamas version of the police.
Do you know that one with the Palestine flag that says Shorter.
Shorter.
I can read that. Right?
Please, that's good. Sorry, because I've got to know. I've got to know to make sure I've got the right thing.
Aye, you're not getting noised up.
Aye, shorter.
Aye.
It appears quite a lot.
Aye, that's mad. Do you know what? I don't even think I noticed them the last time I was here.
Afghanistan, yeah.
Right.
I've not got the new Taliban one right now.
I bet you've no. Aye.
But I'll not lose my head.
Aye.
And that's the Korean one there.
The North Korean one, where is it? Aye, right, look, North Korea. How do North Korea, know what I mean? Kim Jong-un himself could have worn that. And then we have Hong Kong police, that's Chinese now, obviously.
Chinese now.
Aye. Don't think it probably would have made much, it's just probably always was Chinese, but we always...
Well, we had 1997.
Aye, because they handed it back on my 15th birthday.
Oh, right, aye.
Aye, 30th of June 97.
The Canadian one there and the American.
The Mounties. Australia. Cambodia. That's where I'm from. No, well, Canberra slang, I call it Cambodia. Cambodia.
That's the World Trade Centre, police. That was the Port
Authority.
World Trade Centre.
Jeez.
The badge is 91101.
What?
That was the commissioner that sent me that.
Oh really? So was that like specially made?
No, it was. He just told the guys to get one made. Well, the badges were made specially because of 91101.
Aye.
He sent it over because a police charity here had looked after widows and children for a holiday.
Aye.
And when they went back and showed pictures in the museum, he sent that over with the next group coming over.
Jeez. That was a bad day, that.
Yeah. Then we've got through the Caribbean to South America, we've got Cuba.
Cuba?
And Belize.
Cuban cops, You ever been to Cuba?
No.
Right. Just wondering if you'd any...
I've known that there's been collectors have gone there and
Right.
It's not a problem.
Right, so how do you meet these? Do you all have a website or a Facebook group or something?
It's an association.
Right, aye.
You've got to have a
collection
and to get into the society.
Aye, you've got to have credentials.
Yes.
Right.
And that just keeps it safe because if you're spotting police badges, somebody might use it wrong, you know.
Right, aye.
That's what it keeps for security reasons.
Right, aye, I never thought of that.
Aye,
interesting. Aye.
That there's a painting of a police dog that got an award. It got the Scottish Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Bravery Award for protecting a cop. It got stabbed, the dog got stabbed, so did the policeman. Right. But the dog held on to the guy to keep him away from the policeman who might have killed him. So
how long ago was this?
That was 1993.
93? I was only what then? 11, 12, something like that.
There you go. So
Alistair Reid.
Really brave dog.
I like the kind of dogs.
Aye.
What is kind of dogs that Alsatian? Aye.
I mean, it looks like a photograph, but it's actually a painting.
Aye. It's a belter.
Isn't it?
Whoever it is good at painting.
That's right, exactly.
Might want to get them to paint me.
So there you go.
Thank you very much.
I hope you liked the mini tour.
Aye, I did.
And if your viewers want to come up, we're open 7 days a week, April to October. Right. And there's absolutely no problem.
Alright, well thanks very much for your time. It was good getting shown about.
Fine then, Chris.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, peeps. The Glasgow Police Museum, bit of criminal justice history for you there. a wee tour about, know what I mean? But everybody take care. See you all next time I'm back on. Catches.